Coming to you from deep within the heart of Texas in our secret underground bunkers, it's the New Republic Radio Show. Welcome, one and all, to the November 17 show. I'm your host, Keith Clark, and you are here with the New Republic. Many of you that are new to the show, I know we've got a bunch of new fans, so I want to welcome all of you to the New Republic show. Our nation consists of a bunch of free thinkers, mostly conservatives, some liberals, that are all about bringing our nation back to an earlier time, one that is closer to the Constitution, one that is all about freedoms for you and I, and the restoration of the American dream. One of our target goals is to change our country from the community level up. And what we mean by that is we want to start putting in politicians, and we really hate to even call them that. We want to call them citizen politicians that basically start from the lower levels, work their way up all the way in to our nation's capital, get the job done without all the connections to the businesses and everything else under the sun. But it's up to you and I to educate people, to help them vote with confidence, vote with knowledge, and also, like I say, promote these type of politicians. These are the type of men and women that we need in our government in order to basically start this republic over, the namesake of the show, the New Republic, to give it a reboot, to get us back to a position and a place where we all need to be that's beneficial to one and all. Anyway, I've got a really good show for you today. I've got a bunch of different subjects we're going to be covering. A bunch of the stuff about Iran and the connections that are going on with Israel and the Palestinians right now. We're going to be talking about the $1.6 trillion tax hike that Obama has basically laid out and that he's wanting. We're going to talk about some of the crazy reporting that we've been seeing going on with the whole situation between the Palestinians and Israel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the show. I want to first start with a corrections segment. Last week on the show, many of you caught a little problem that I had, a little error that I made. And from time to time, I can be wrong. That's all right. But, I'm always willing to admit it. I kept referring to the book 1984 as 1983. In Orwell's book, as you know what I was referring to, I don't know why. I said 1983 instead of 1984. So I just wanted to come out and correct that because we always strive for the truth. In this show, you'll definitely hear me lay down the facts. All the facts are basically what it is, what's going on at the moment, or whatever for any particular subject. And of course, I always add my commentary. It may be mostly towards the end, but sometimes it's in the middle of giving you the facts. So, as much as my show is about facts and educating people, it is honestly a large portion of it is about my opinion on all these facts and these situations. So, again, to you new men and women, I just want you to know we always strive for facts here, and we're always going to highlight those type of things. So, if you have any questions or if you catch me on certain little things, please let me know. Send it in. We've got a lot of fans that do that already, but we are happy to add that to you, or rather to add you to that. So, anyway, moving on. First story we're going to be talking about is Iran admits to pulling the strings on the Gaza crisis. As so many of you know in the news right now, we just have this entire situation between Israel and the Gaza Strip going on with the Palestinians. Now, in this story from WMD, the story goes on to say that the escalation of the Gaza conflict was ordered by the highest authority in Iran. The source added that the rockets targeting Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are in fact a warning to Israel that its Iron Dome missile defense system cannot thwart Iran's ballistic missiles and tens of thousands of rockets and missiles in the hands of Hezbollah. Now, the reason why I bring this up is obviously that's a big deal. We need to know the fact that Iran is behind this particular issue right now. Now, as we all know, this whole crisis between Gaza and Israel has been going on ever since Israel was established as a new country, as a new state. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the politics on that. Many of you have already seen on my page a bunch of the history about that. But what I really want to talk about is basically the stuff that you're not going to hear in the news. And that is why this is all going on right now. Now, with the whole simple fact that Iran is behind this, what I basically just want to say is this is simply a proxy war. Iran is using their ability to manipulate the Palestinians, to give them weapons, give them even troops and this kind of stuff so that they can attack Israel. Basically what's going on is they're testing their defenses. And one of the biggest things is they want to test this Iron Dome missile defense system. Now, for many of you that don't know what I'm talking about, the Iron Dome missile defense is kind of like our Patriot missile defense. If there's a missile coming, into the country or whatever, it basically shoots up one missile and detonates the missile that's coming inward. So it's a missile defense system. Iran has their own system. We loaned and gave, I'm sure we gave tons of technology to them, but for instance, as many of you will recall, in the deserts, in Desert Storm, Iraq used a bunch of Scud missiles. Basically because we got into that whole mess. They decided they would punish the easiest people to punish, which was which was Israel. So Iraq sent a bunch of Scud missiles. Saddam sent a bunch of Scud missiles aimed at Israel. And what we did is we used our Patriot missile system to help protect them, which again most of those did. They did. I think it was probably around 90 or so % effective rate. But they shot down almost all the missiles that were coming in. Same situation this time, but however, Israel has their own system. I'm sure it was probably help designed with our help, and it's probably very much like the Patriot system. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, it's just the simple fact that Iran and what they're talking about, what I just read to you, they basically just want to test Israel's missile defense so that, as many of you know, Iran is building their nuclear capability. They need to know these type of things. They need to know, how many missiles they need to shoot at Iran in order to get a strike, to get a good strike. So this is basically giving them all the information that they need. Also, if for some reason Iran does not want to go the nuclear route, maybe they just want to go with a standard type war against Israel. Well, in this particular case, again, they are getting all kinds of valuable data to find out exactly what it would take, the amount of missiles it would take to get through. For instance, if they need 10,000 missiles, or if they need 20,000 missiles, or just 6,000 missiles to destroy Israel, or basically debilitate them to the point where they have to capitulate, whatever their particular goal is. But I just want to put this out there and let you guys know what's really going on with this whole situation. Because it's just a simple fact that Iran, and now with the changes in Egypt, with the Muslim Brotherhood, that Iran and Egypt are starting to become fast friends again. As many of you know, the 7-Day War back in the 60s, and even when in the 40s, when Israel became a country, these countries all bound together and just attacked Israel because it's kind of their thing. I mean, they just don't want Jews anywhere around there, and they're going to do what they can do to keep, basically to, as they say, push them into the sea. So that's kind of my take on it. I gave you the facts. But there's my opinion on what's really going on with this entire situation with the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians, and Israel. All right, moving on. Is there a limit to the number of times the news media will act as willing accomplices to the Palestinian propaganda. Now, I probably should have moved this on down to my last segment, but it was just too specific and too much going on. It is definitely a part of the liberal nonsense segment, but I just feel that this is it's got a lot of very specific information that you guys want to know. Anyway, the answer is apparently not. The BBC, which has been an enemy of Israel for years, even going so far as to quote as an authority noted Israel hater Richard Falk, who has compared Israelis to Nazis, has now been caught cutting a video showing a victim of the Israeli attacks on Gaza being carried out seriously wounded. Now, later on in this same video footage, if it wasn't cut, this man is found to be standing up and is completely okay. He was just obviously, dazed and confused, and that's the reason why he was falling. He fell down. But the news folks that are trying to get this whole pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli message out, they of course edited it so that it looked like this guy was basically just dead, because he's not moving, he's just laying on the ground. And then of course, a bunch of his compatriots run up and grab him by the arms and legs and take him off, to get him to help. Or what it really looks like, not to get him to help, it looks like they're just taking him to go, take him to the morgue. But anyway, then you fast forward last night on CNN's 360 with Anderson Cooper, the exact same footage was being shown by them when they were talking about the whole Israeli Gaza situation. So, again, I just want to point out just the simple fact, the reasons. This is just one more of the million of reasons why we don't need to be watching the mainstream media, why we don't need to be watching the CNNs, the BBS, the BBC, sorry, whoever else out there in the alphabet media. They are basically, they're going to be propagating their ridiculous ideas and thoughts. Yeah, am I propagating my idea? Yeah, my idea is that the media needs to be neutral. And, I'm going to call out the media when I see them purposely edit videos to make a point, and to make basically the Israelis look bad in the face of the entire situation with the Gaza Strip. Now, this story, just so you guys know, comes from Breitbart.com. That's a really good website. It is a little more conservative, but the thing is they are all about getting to the bottom of things. And Breitbart.com has broke a lot of really important stories over the past couple of years. All right, moving on. Next story: the myth of Republican taxes on the middle class. Now, I know that my timing's kind of bad because this would probably have been better before the election. But I think this really comes to a head now because of the whole Obama proposing the $1.6 trillion in taxes. And I just kind of want to do that whole I told you so, Plus, biggest thing is I want to educate you guys and my liberal friends who are listening. I want to educate them and to let them know and be shown how bad the media has lied to them, covered up, adjusted, and manipulated information to make them feel this particular way. So, as all of you, even if you're conservatives, you've definitely heard this over and over again. Republicans want to raise taxes on the middle class and the poor. They want to cut taxes on the rich. Then you have the reverse that you always hear from the media, is that the Democrats, they want to raise taxes on the rich and basically cause social justice, and they want to lower taxes on the middle class, and they want to lower taxes on the poor, and they're just, they're the downtrodden champions. They're just the good guys, they're wearing the white hats, and those evil Republicans and those conservatives, those evil guys, they're just guys and gals. They're out there to just hurt people and take people's rights away and just push the poor even lower, and if they could take the last loaf of bread from a poor family, it would just make the day of any Republican and or conservatives. That's basically what we hear over and over again. But let me give you some facts. Let me show you, one, what the Republicans basically have been proposing about the whole tax situation. They want to continue the Bush tax cuts. So number one, that's a tax cut. There is no tax increase even on the middle class or the poor, in continuing the Bush tax cuts. All right, so that's not a tax increase. All right, well, let's look and see. Well, this can't be all good. Republicans and conservatives can't be perfect, can they? No, absolutely not. Because if you want to look from, is somebody paying more? Yes, some people will pay more. All right, and how that's going to happen is they wanted, in order to compensate for the huge deficit that we have, the trillion and trillions of dollars deficit that we have as a country, they wanted to limit the eligibility for the child tax credit. Not completely do away with it, which I'll talk about later, but they wanted to limit the eligibility. Also, they wanted to curtail tax credits for higher education expenses from $2,500 a year down to $1,800. So that's a bad thing, right? You're basically not allowing some people to get as much money for education. That's a horrible thing, right? Actually, no, it's really not. Yes, it does limit the amount of money that the government has to give out. However, anytime that schools realize that these folks out there that are trying to get an education have a limited ability to get money, and that ability is actually shrinking, like in a case like this, that actually means that they're going to have to start charging less for tuition. Because the reality is, if the schools know that you can get the money from somewhere, they're going to raise it. They're basically going to make that expensive. So back in the 80s and 90s, when you and I could easily work through college to go to great schools part-time, you can't do that anymore. And why is that? Well, that's because the government allows so many people to get loans, to get grants, you name it, basically like this, like tax credits, so that they can get more education, which is great to a point. However, when the schools realize, and over time as they realize that you have access to more and more money, what are they going to do? They're going to increase the cost. That's the reason why so many of you out there that are my age have thousands and thousands and thousands, and I mean tens of thousands of dollars of school debt still. And you're middle-aged. And you're still paying for that. And there's a reason why so many of these kids right now are having to work not only part-time, but they have to get all these grants and all these aid and everything else just to go to school. Now that is completely ridiculous. So getting back to what I'm talking about, these supposed tax hikes, yes, they would reduce this for basically for Americans. Then let's move on to the third one. Cutting back on the earned income tax credit for families with 3 or more children. So not doing away with, but cutting back on. Yes, this basically, to the average person out there, this in some way, shape, or form reduces money in their pocket at the end of the year. However, none of those 3 things that I just named are tax increases. No. In fact, they're all basically like government programs. They're subsidies. They're kind of like Social Security, kind of like welfare, kind of like food stamps. When you basically limit the eligibility of the child tax credit, that's basically money that folks get at the end of the year that have children. They get basically a lump sum back, $1,000 per child. So, yeah, that's money that they're not getting because they're not getting this free money back. And many of these folks never paid any taxes to begin with. So, am I really broken up about that? No. I'm single. I don't have any children, so it doesn't affect me one way or the other. I know a lot of people that do, and I'm glad that they get it. I'm not begrudging them. But if our country is going through this many problems, then we're probably going to have to cut back on stuff like that. This is more of a cutback. This is not a tax. Also, again, I'm kind of happy about the whole school thing because cutting back on that, yes, it may hurt a few people right at the beginning, but the cool thing is next year and the year after that and the year after that, that basically just means that school's going to be cheaper for everybody. So that means that a lot of you folks that would have needed this kind of help will eventually not need the help because schools will have to cut back on their actual cost. Also, it's the whole thing about limiting it with 3 or more children. Well, I mean, how many? I mean, if you got 10 children and you're getting $1,000 each, well, what's the point? I mean, why keep having children if you're in this kind of need? So, again, I don't really, I hate to say it, but I'm not really feeling bad for that. And a lot of people, you say, well, I don't feel bad for taxes on rich people. And that's true, but that road works both ways. Now, let's highlight this whole idea of what Obama wants to do. Obama's revenge right now is he's just proposed to raise taxes $1.6 trillion. Now, that is in the face of a horrible economy that's just took a huge turn with his reelection. As far as jobs are concerned, people are on hiring freezes. They're on layoff. Basically, we had the layoff bomb go down right after the election. This is a very tough economy. The stock market is doing horribly. All right. Even with that, he proposes a $1.6 trillion increase in taxes. Basically, most of this, the bulk of this, is aimed at the wealthiest 2%. Now, where do they go for the rest of that? Because even the wealthiest people, if you basically tally them all together, if you took all of their wealth, you're not going to get $1.6 trillion. So he's going after the wealthy businesses. He's going after the wealthy folks in order to get the bulk of that. But guess where he's getting the other part? That's right, the middle class and the poor. How is he going to do that? Simple. What they've always wanted to do. You repeal the Bush tax cuts. So what does that mean to you and I if they repeal the Bush tax cuts? Well, I'll tell you, there's some pretty simple things, but they mean a lot. Basically, what happens is the current tax rates, the different tax brackets, those tax brackets are 10, 15%, 25, 28, 33, all the way up to 35. So whatever particular income you're in, those are the percentage rates that you pay on any income that you make. Well, basically what happens is if you go back to the way things were before the Bush tax cuts, it raises even the lowest tax bracket that the poorest people are in. 10%. It raises 10% to 15%. So now Obama is going to ask the poor to, instead of paying 10% of their income, they're going to be paying 15% of their income. Think about it. Also, the 15%, 25%, and the 28% tax bracket, which is the middle class, the 15% is going to go up to 28%. The 25% is going to go to 31%. And the 28% is going to go up to 36%. Ouch. Ow. And you and I know a whole lot of people that are working from check to check. So here's my question. When they repeal the Bush tax cuts, what's that going to do to everybody? Because now all of a sudden, next month rolls around and they've got 5 to 10 or more percent gone out of their check. They weren't ready for it. They were already living to paycheck to paycheck. There wasn't anything they could do about it. Or at least not in a couple of months. What are they going to do? They're going to be screwed is what's basically going to happen. So that is what the Democrats, the good guys, the guys that wear the white hats, Mr. Obama, Jesus himself, that's what he wants to do for you as the poor and the middle class. Now, you get your social justice because at the 35%, the top tax bracket, you get your social justice there because it goes from 35% to 39%. So, ooh, yeah, those evil rich people, oh, yeah, they're getting it good. Yeah. Screw those evil white people. Yeah. Yeah. How this helps anybody, I don't know. Moving on. More of repealing the Bush tax cuts. More of what it does. The marriage penalty. The so-called marriage penalty would return to married families. Currently, married filing joint families, taxpayers enjoy a standard deduction double of that of a single person. This would no longer be true if the tax cut expires. So basically, instead of having that double tax break that married people enjoy right now, they wouldn't have that anymore. So you're going to be feeling more like me as a single person. You're going to be getting hit with all that tax. So yeah, you know what? I could be a selfish person and go, yeah, man, the married people, they finally know what it's like to be single. Yeah. No, I'm not feeling that. I feel bad for you guys. Yeah, it kind of sucks that I pay more taxes because I'm single, but it's whatever. I still want you guys to make it. I still want y'all to be able to live the American dream. I'm not going to hate on that. I mean, I could, and that's just this whole Democrat liberal thing. Their whole theme is to hate on people that have it a little better than they do, that have an advantage here or there. That's what they do. That's them being them. Like they say, you do you, I do me. That's what they do. But it gets even better. The child tax credit, the $1,000 per child tax credit many now enjoy, yeah, that would be gone. And you were thinking that limiting the eligibility to the child tax credit was horrible because that's what the Republicans wanted to do. They wanted to limit it. No, not what they didn't want to do what the Democrats wanted to do. They just wanted to limit it. But no, the Democrats want to completely take it away. Earned income tax credit. This credit would be reduced and or eliminated reduced or eliminated for some taxpayers who are currently eligible. So basically, they want to take it completely away from some folks. Whereas those evil conservatives, they just wanted to cut it back. They just wanted to bring it back from some people. So yeah, not eliminated. Dependent care credit. Here's another one. If you've got somebody in your family that needs care and you're taking care of them, you're basically getting a little something from the government every year to help that out. Well, that is going to shrink dramatically. If you were getting, say, $1,000 a year, that's going to pull back to around $750. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. The news keeps telling us that Democrats good, Republican bad. And I don't know. I'm not starting to see that picture. I'm starting to see a very dramatic different picture. Then let's move on to the estate tax. Now this is something that doesn't necessarily affect me, but aggravates me greatly. The exemption credit shelter amount for estate tax would be reduced from the current $5 million per person to $1 million per person. So let's say you were inheriting land from your parents. Let's say they had a great big farm. Let's say it was worth $3.7 million. Right now with the Bush tax cuts, you're not really having to pay anything on that because it's under that limit of $5 million. So, you can just go through your grieving and deal with all that stuff, which is not going to be fun. As many of you know that have had a parent die, taking care of the estate is some serious business. It's a lot of time. It's rough. Okay. The thing is imagine that not only you go through all that, but within 9 months you have to pay a tax of 55% on that $3.5 million. Well, here's the problem. If it happens to be mostly land, you're kind of screwed. So now you're going to have to sell part of probably what was your lifelong homestead, the place that you grew up on, just so that you can pay that 55% and give it to the government for what? For no reason. Because it's a death tax. They basically say, because your parent died, we just automatically demand 55% of your inheritance is effectively what it is. Yes, that definitely encourages social justice. But that is completely ridiculous and unfair and intolerable. Now, removing the Bush tax cuts, again, would bring that down from $5 million down to $1 million. So, if your parents, $1 million these days, I'm sorry, it's not bad, but it's not all that good either. But let's just say your folks, they were doing okay. They ended up not doing too bad, and their estate was worth like $1.1 million. Yeah, you're going to be screwed when they repeal the tax cuts, because you're going to be hit with that 55% tax rate. Why? What is the deal? Who cares? That is completely ridiculous. You're going through all this mess. You inherit your land, property, or whatever. 9 months later, you get the demand from the government. We want our 55%. Why? Why do they want 55? Because your parents died. How is that anybody's fault? Then let's look at another portion of this. The estate tax. All right, when the Bush tax cuts are gone, right now the estate tax, which I feel is ridiculous, is at 35%. Well, you say, what were you talking about earlier when you were saying 55%? What I'm talking about earlier was when you do away with the Bush tax cuts, it goes from 35% to 55%. Now you see why the Democrats really want to do away with the Bush tax cuts. Because now they know through attrition, they're going to get lots and lots and lots of money. Because they know as soon as you die, and or your parents or your other family members, they are going to get more and more and more and more money. And the problem, again, like I say, with most of this stuff is, a lot of this stuff is things like land and homes. You can't just sell one bedroom of a house. Well, if they want 55%, you can't sell half your house to the government, or so that you can 9 months later pay the government a freaking death penalty tax. Well, I call it a death penalty. It is. Let's call it what it is. It's a death penalty. Don't die. And that makes no sense. What does the government care? You worked all your life so that you could have things, you could do things, you could take care of your heirs, take care of your children, take care of your other family members. But the government wants something. They want something more. It's not enough that you died working hard all your life to accumulate wealth and a little bit of safety and security for your family. Now they hit you with basically a death penalty. Oh, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. You died. Now we want half. Oh, did I say half? I meant half and 5% more, 55%. Come on, seriously? Ridiculous. Look, that's the biggest scam, because not only do they hit you with 55% after you die, you've been paying taxes on that land your entire life. Your children will pay taxes on that land the rest of their life. Your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, as long as it stays in the family, your namesake will be paying taxes on that land. That is the biggest scam. Talk about a Ponzi scheme. It just goes on forever. Now, would I feel so bad if I was eternally paying land tax and other taxes like that if the government didn't have their hand out on everything else? No, I'd be like, yeah, it kind of sucks that I always have to pay taxes on this, but it's kind of nice that I don't have to pay taxes on anything else. Well, guess what? That's the way the government used to be set up. They used to basically just take your land taxes, and they were done with it. But of course, we didn't have a multi-trillion-dollar government. That's the reason why a government this huge is a horribly bad idea. Because the bigger it is, the more it needs to be fed. And unfortunately, I make this comparison because it's just legitimate. Towards the end of the Roman Empire, right before it fell, when the Roman emperors needed money, when they had spent every dime, built everything they could think of, thrown so many games and gone to war and done everything under the sun to spend basically all the money out of the treasury, you know what they did? They had a death tax too. What would they do? They'd be like, oh, look at Flavius over there. Yeah, he's got that nice estate. What's that worth? Oh, that's a lot of money. That'd run the government for a little while. Tell you what, guards, I want you to go over there. As emperor, I have this power, and they knew it. They'd be like, I want you to go over there and kill Flavius and serve his family with the papers that the death tax says that I get to basically take his estate. So he sent his guards over there. 30 minutes later, poor Flavius, he was dead. And guess what? The government confiscated his wealth. That's the type of situation that we're getting to. And that's the reason why these type of estate taxes are completely unfair. They are illegitimate and ultimately dangerous. So, going back to the whole Bush tax cuts, the evil Republicans versus the savior that we have in the wonderful Democrats, that is the entire myth that I just wanted to dispose of. Because the whole fact is, yeah, you know what? Those evil Republicans wanted to cut back some of your benefits, a little bit of your benefits, not very much. And they wanted to raise a little bit of taxes on the super rich. They wanted to close a bunch of loopholes. But they were pretty much, going to leave stuff well enough alone. But now you get Obama where he's going to be like, yeah, screw the super rich. We're going to make sure, number one, you don't have jobs from these super rich people. We're going to shut them down. We're going to take all their money, confiscate that through taxation. So now that they don't have any of this money, they can't hire you and me. They can't keep you and I in a job. So we're going to get laid off. Then if our sorry selves, if we get lucky enough to go find another job, maybe for the government, because that's the only people that are going to be hiring, well, we're going to be screwed again, because now we're going to be paying, 5 or 10% more in taxes each year, because we're going to roll back the Bush tax cuts. We're going to be screwed because of the marriage penalty. We're going to be screwed because of the child tax credit. We're going to be screwed because of the earned income tax credit. We're going to be screwed because of the dependent care credit. And guess what? Guess who did it all? It wasn't the evil Republicans. It wasn't those danged conservatives. It was your friendly neighborhood Democrat. And their fearless leader, Obama. So, again, were the Republicans going to do a few things that weren't that nice and weren't that great? Yeah, absolutely. Nobody's perfect, and believe me, Republicans are nowhere near perfect. Conservatives, I feel, are a lot better. That's my bias there. But anyway, they're definitely not perfect. It was definitely going to hurt, but here's the fact. Our country's in trouble. It's going to hurt everybody in order to fix it. So you might as well just shut up, take your medicine, and cut back spending. Let's cut spending. Let's not take money out of needy people's hands and pockets. Stop taking it out of the mouths of their children. And let's help somebody. Let's reduce some government. Why does the government get to eat well when we're not going to get to? Why do they get great, huge pensions when we're not going to get it? if you're working for the government, you're set. They can't fire you for any reason. I mean, that they're, you basically, the only way to fire a government employee, they have like these such crazy rules. You have to show up late on a Thursday, but it can't be on a leap year, it has to be on a leap year, and you have to be 99% out of dress code, and you have to get mouthy with your supervisor, and it has to be your 348th time. That's the only way to lose your job with the government. You and I don't get that. We're not that lucky. So yeah, again, I just wanted to dispel this entire myth of the whole Republican raising taxes on the middle class, because that's what your media has crammed down your throat. And I just wanted to show you so simplistically why that's not the case, and how awfully they have lied to you, how distorted they have basically painted the picture for you. And so I hope this will get a lot of you, that some of you liberals that are out there listening, I hope that it will show you that you need to stop watching the ABCs. You need to stop reading their newspapers. You need to stop going to their websites, because that's the kind of garbage they're going to give you. And to move on to my next segment, this kind of plays into this whole thing. But the whole liberal nonsense segment, I just want to call out the media and the blogosphere, because one of my biggest pet peeves is this whole situation with Palestine and Israel. Not one time have they referred to Hamas as terrorists. Not one single time. You know what they call them? Armed militants. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, Keith, what's the big deal? Armed militant doesn't sound good. That's not heroic sounding. Well, no, it's not. But they're basically not calling the kettle black. I mean, they are terrorists. And a lot of you are saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Hamas is not terrorists. Well, you're saying that because, A, you're brainwashed by the media, and I'm fixing to prove it to you. And how is that, you say, Keith? Well, let me give you their charter. This is their charter, what they agreed to. What they will tell you is their charter. And their charter reads simply, our struggle against the Jews is very great and very serious, and calls for the eventual creation of an Islamic state in Palestine, in place of Israel and the Palestinian territories, and the obliteration or dissolution of Israel. Obliteration. That word sounds kind of friendly, doesn't it? That sounds a little bit like a terrorist. Man, seriously. If you people keep buying into this media, I don't know what to tell you, because you are already lost. Our last election showed you that. But I'm trying to bring you back, and you know what? To the conservatives and my conservative friends out there that are listening, please try to educate people with this. Please. Because the more people buy into this crap, the harder the job that you and I are going to have of bringing this nation back, bringing our economy back, bringing our freedoms back. Basically, the American dream is dead. It's on the table. You and I are the ones. We have the paddles in our hand. And we can make one of two choices. We can either do what we need to do and educate people and do something about this ridiculous media that we have that's brainwashing people. And we can get those paddles on there and we can give it a jolt and get the American dream back, bring it back, let it come back to life. But we're going to have to nurture it. We're going to have to grow it. So it's up to you and I, all of us out there, to basically educate, man. It's all about education. To make these people understand this stuff. But if you hold it all inside, and if you argue and fight about it on Facebook and through text messages on message boards, Twitter, you name it, You're not doing anything. Again, like I always say, you got to learn how to debate. If you need help with debating, let me know. I'll do anything I can. But you got to learn how. You got to be educated. You got to learn how to take your idea and express it to another person. 979-31-TALK-6. Give me a text message. Give me a call. Send me some information here. Tell me what you think about this stuff. Give me some ideas on ways that we can deal with this media. All right. Before I leave with you, there's a couple of things that are going right now, and I'll be honest, I didn't want to talk about this. Petraeus, I'm sorry, I don't really want to talk about it because, you know what, honestly, I'm aggravated. I'm aggravated because of the whole Benghazi issue, the way the media is just basically covering it up. Nobody in the media wants to talk about it. They don't want to hold the president responsible. So my whole point is what the heck is the big deal about Petraeus? It doesn't matter. He's covered everything up. They've all covered it up. We're not going to find out. We might find out 10 or 20 years later. But, I pray that we do. I hope we find out tomorrow. I'm not saying that, but I'm tired of talking about it at the moment. Maybe something will break on the story, will happen, and I'll be good to go. But you know what? I'm just aggravated on it because the media has buried it so deep, and they brainwashed the people into not believing it and to not talk about it, that I'm done with it. In the CIA talking points, I know they got changed, and I know, in the hearing there, they found out that the talking points about it being, related to Al-Qaeda and terrorism. I realized that, we found out somebody changed it in the White House, but my problem is we're not going to find out about it, because somebody's going to take the freaking cyanide pill just so that they don't, admit it, because these people are so wrapped up in the Obama administration and they're so brainwashed, and the media is not really trying to find anything out. And that's the other aggravation. The media's job is to be us and to represent us to the government. And the way that they do that is they ask the right questions and they hound the right people, and they are hounding nobody right now, and they are asking none of the right questions. You know what? And I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories on the whole women behind the Petraeus scandal and all the infiltration of the terrorist organizations and everything, through that, basically trying to get to Petraeus and find out secrets and all. I know all about those conspiracy theories. I just don't want to talk about them right now because I'm so aggravated about the whole situation. I hope I pray something comes out, but I just see this getting covered up more and more. It's being buried more and more, so my word to, those folks that are trying to get to the bottom of it, some of the Republicans and a very few of the reporters out there, hey, I'm encouraging you, keep going, keep calling for these hearings, keep digging. It's crazy that George Bush fired some lawyers from the White House, and they talked about it for nearly 8 months, and they did hearings over it. For getting rid of lawyers? I mean, we've got Fast and Furious, we've got Benghazi, and nobody. I mean, you can't get a front page story on this for nothing. Anyway. It just goes to show you. You put a Republican in the White House and the media wants to do everything to take them down. You have a Democrat in the House and the media wants to do everything to keep them there and up. 979-31-TALK-6. Give me a call and let me know. What are you thinking on this? Twinkies no more. I do want to say this last bit. For you folks that think 18,000 jobs lost is a good thing, I can understand why you like the unions then. For the simple fact that the unions wanted to get rid, or they were mad, rather, they were agitated at the fact that they had to take an 8% cut. All right, understand that this business was going through bankruptcy, had already come out of a previous bankruptcy, trying to restructure. Part of that restructure required them basically to lower the income of their employees by 8% to stay in business. not lower the income of their employees by 8% so the owner could buy a new Lambo. No. He wasn't trying to ride in a Mercy. No. He was trying to keep his business alive. But the unions didn't care about that. They just wanted, number one, a reason to be paid, because if there aren't controversies, there's no reason for a union. So unions nowadays have to go out and make up reasons to do this kind of crap. So when they decided they were going to picket, the company was already behind. They couldn't fulfill the orders that they already had. And now they're going to have employees that are going to go picket. They had to throw down an ultimatum because it's a simple fact. It's business. At the end of every month, you have to pay your receivables. All right? If you can't even fill the orders you got now, and half of your folks even walk off, there just wasn't enough people. Some of them crossed the line, that's true, but there wasn't enough of them to cross the line to help. So of course, basically his bills were higher than what his income, his receivables were. So at the end of the day, he had to shut down, and I don't blame him. Because you know what? I've been in business. And the simple fact is, it's bad enough when you're in a horrible economy, and this guy had to go through a bankruptcy and through his second bankruptcy, or these folks that own this company and, at the top of it, they've had to been dealing with all this. You're in a down economy, you get a new president hired, they're looking at Obamacare, they're looking at the stock market taking a huge plunge. What are they going to do? I'll be honest, if I was that man, I would have went home that night. If I was all of them, I'd have just told my wife, I'd have been like, hey, sorry to tell you, but I'm out. We're just going to sell off what we can. I'm sure somebody will buy Twinkies and Wonder Bread. Everybody loves those brands. Somebody will buy it and we're out. We'll go do something else that actually makes some money, or we'll sit on our money until the economy gets better. But no, I don't blame them. So a lot of you people are mad at the fact that, they didn't, they didn't give them their wage increase or basically stop the wage cutback. But you know what? 18,000 people laid off because of unions. Then on top of that, let me tell you something else that nobody else is reporting on. The fact that the unemployment for all these folks, because most of them are eligible, the unemployment for these folks is going to cost you and I $500 million, $500 million. So yeah, again, thank you, unions. Anyway, all right, that's going to be wrapping my show up. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments or send a text message or whatever. All right, well, as usual, I just want to say have a great day. Go out and do some good deeds. One of the good deeds that you could do is there are still lots of Sandy victims out there that need help. So I would recommend that you maybe donate something to the Red Cross or some other good charities out there that could really make a difference for some folks right now. So again, go out, do some good deeds. Maybe hold a door open for somebody. Maybe say an encouraging word if you see somebody's having a bad day. Actually, scratch that. Just say an encouraging word to everybody. Everybody needs that, no matter what's going on. Just, give people hugs, give them encouragement, hold a door open for somebody, help an old person. Who knows? Do for your community because your community will do for you. And as always, have a great day, folks, and stay safe. I'm your host, Keith Clark, and I'm out.